We got some build series coming up here for the RDX, which is why you're clicking on watching the install video of these EIBACH Sport Springs. We're also gonna do a lot more things to this car. If you don't follow VCD, I am gonna say right now, go ahead and follow them. I'm gonna link them down in the descriptions. I'm gonna show you a quick sneak peek on what he's done. Guaranteed you're gonna be surprised by what he's already done to this car. Wow. It's already done a little bit of work to it. What have you done to this thing?
Basically, all we've done at the moment is we retrofitted our intake to fit the RDX. Our company doesn't make an intake for this car specifically. What we wanted was to have some type of coverage from water. And this is a box, so it's not like this is gonna get filled. And if it does, there's a little hole at the bottom, so it's all gonna just leak out. And I just wanted to make it as reliable as possible. And the way that we did it, it just looks like it's supposed to be meant for this car. There's a lot of stuff that we can use from other vehicles to just implement onto this new platform and just make stuff better. But besides that, all we did was we added a custom valve cover. This is the same valve cover you're gonna get in an RDX as well. It did have some ugly black cover. I mean, it wasn't ugly, but it takes away from the car. And we removed it, and obviously with this nice bright red valve cover, it looks so much better. If you guys do want a valve cover, you can always hit us up on Instagram. We do offer it for the 1.5, the 2 liter NA, and also the Type R, Accord, and RDX now.
Yeah, and you guys already saw what we did with the spoon valve cover here on the last video that we did. They went ahead and gave it a little bit of touch up because the previous owner obviously used it. So it had some chips in it and whatnot, and they took the extra special care of it. I'm gonna have Lewis talk to you about it a little bit more. The stock height on this car is what, Lewis?
So right now, after measuring, I know some people are gonna complain about the uneven floor, but I'm just gonna say it's 32. That's about as close as we're gonna get. I mean, I'm not designing these, so I don't care how much. And in the back, we're at 32.5. So,
okay.
So according to EIBACH, this is supposed to lower 1.5 inches in the front and 1.2 inches in the rear.
All right, if you guys were wondering what these springs look like, these are it. EIBACH is making them for the RDX platform. Anyway, what was the drop on these?
1.5 in the front, 1.2 in the rear.
There you go. 1.5 in the front, 1.2 in the rear. Remember, we had said it was about 36 inches of ride height so far on this car in the front, 36.5 in the back. Do the math. If not, we'll do it for you later. We got the car up on the lift real quick. Got Lewis already taking off the wheels. We're gonna give you guys, as best as I can, a step-by-step of how this rolls here today. Shouldn't be too complicated of an install. I mean, again, like I tell all of you folks, if you guys have never done an install like this, take it to somebody that knows. Bring it over here to the boys at VCD. They'll get you in and out, especially if you've never done it or don't have the tools like they do. I mean, look at this fancy box he's got going on here with all these lights and stuff. He spent a couple dollars on tools. Here's the instructions provided by EIBACH. As you could tell, it's not that deep. It does give you some instructions on how to cut the bump stops, and we'll walk you through that. So you're still here for the video. Stick around. We're gonna take care of this. We're gonna do this lickety split. All right, we've gone ahead and removed the tires. We're inspectioning the front suspension.
Everything looks very similar to a non-Type R. This is gonna be our rundown for installation. We're gonna remove this 14. We're gonna move this 17 back here that holds the strut together. We're gonna move the top hats. We're gonna remove the 12 here, the lower 17s that hold the arm, and we're gonna try to just pop this bad boy out in a directional way. And a 10, yeah, there's a 10 right here. So we're ready.
Man, we haven't even started. He's already on break. Usually it's this guy on break.
Oh, I am on break. You're already on break.
That's what happens to all good race cars. Has been raining here in LA recently, but I don't know.
Okay.
It's the tie rod. All right, struts out. Wasn't too bad. Word to the wise, you are gonna need a little bit of leverage and a trusty free labor assistant to help you out. You just go ahead and you're gonna disassemble the strut from the spring itself. Like we were saying, you are gonna need these spring compressors, a nice Milwaukee set of
Milwaukee set. This one actually is Milwaukee.
There's a difference in the stock versus EIBACH springs. Yeah, EIBACH on the initial run of these springs, they didn't include these like rubber silencers, I guess you want to call them. If you recall, on a spoon set that we put on the car, it has these, and that's again just when the spring compresses, sometimes it makes a little bit of noise. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and cut a little bit off the bump stop, and it is important that you do this step. I mean, it just tells you to remove 20 millimeters, which is what we did. We removed 20 millimeters, we measured it. We're on point here, make sure. Measure twice, like cut once. All right, we got the whole assembly back together here. Took a little bit of finessing. I will say it was a pain in the ass, no?
Yeah, to be honest with you.
But it just makes compressing it and putting on this top head portion a little bit of pain in the rear. Nothing we can't handle over here. Now we're just gonna go ahead and put everything back together. I'll pick up once everything's back installed. I won't bore you with the details because it's pretty simple. But as far as putting on, it's gonna be the same deal. It's just, again, you are going to, I would say, need maybe another person to help you out because it's a lot more stiffer, a little bit more rigid than, let's say, your SI or Type R. Makes it a little bit more of a pain in the butt. So just grab a helping hand, like Morris, I was gonna say, like Lewis here has the trusty free labor assistant, but I think he's on break somewhere. Yeah, where you been?
Right here, it tells you which spring it is. This is like the front right side, and then we're using the front right shock. So yeah, don't mix them up because they're not gonna fit.
That's gonna be interesting. Okay, a little bit of advice. If you're doing this yourself, he's busy over there working on this half, but in order to get to the strut mounts, you got one here, you got another one right here. These two are fairly simple, as you can see. This one's a little bit of pain in the butt. It's gonna take a little ingenuity here. You may wanna use a strong type of magnet to adhere to your, nut. But even then, it is a little rough. And be careful, because if you do lose the nut, you're gonna have to remove this whole assembly here. I'm sure you gotta remove all kinds of parts that you don't wanna do. All right, what's the foot-pound torques that we're doing up the top here for the top hats?
These are 14, so we're gonna do 36.
All right, so 36. All right, this is the part I was saying.
Not the fucking shoes.
Yeah, you gotta watch the shoes. We got the mochas on. You can't be ruining those, but obviously we're here at the gig. Okay. Anywho, told you this is the part where you may need another helping hand. Lewis has a labor assistant here that can help him out. I used to have a trusty free labor assistant until he ditched me to make money. And then I'm doing this part, which can be a little bit cumbersome, which is sliding in the spindle to the shock, as you see right there. Put a little lubricant to try and get it to slide in and out. We'll see if we can get it to work. See, Lewis here has all the toys. We're gonna use a little jack with a block of wood. As you recall, he's used this before for transmissions and whatnot when they did the motor mounts on the Type R. Boom. 1, 2, 3, see? You got all the right tools, everyone. It makes the job a lot smoother. And you gotta know what you're doing. I mean, some people just don't figure it out right away.
You know what you're doing?
Fucking buying.
All right, day 46. We're still working on here on the right side. Having a little trouble with getting everything back in alignment. We'll check back. We don't radio in by day 50. Send a search party out here. You know, this fucking install is really turning to be long. I thought it was gonna be about 2 hours. We're already an hour in on one side. We still have to do the back. I don't know. You may want to leave your car here all day if that's the case. All right, here's a little tidbit of what we're doing to get the spring onto the strut here. And it is quite a pain in the rear. Just again, because like I said, how the spring sits on to the strut itself. It sits at this weird crooked angle. Makes it really, really difficult to try and compress the spring. And again, that's so we can put the top hat onto that. Lewis mentioned something that is gonna make sense for probably about 80% of you guys.
This is probably the same way you're going to be doing it in your driveway, because this is the only tool you're going to really be able to have access to. Like, you can probably get this at O'Reilly's or at AutoZone or something like that.
Which is a spring compressor.
Yeah, this is like an old school type. I mean, I think everyone still uses this, like, for the most part.
I've seen him in a lot of videos myself.
At like full suspension shops where they only do suspension all day, they have like that whole press thing that like, it's super easy, but.
Okay, we're just about done with the front suspension. And as a note, right now we finished up the driver's side, and a lot of you will probably say, wait a minute, why was that side so much easier than the other side? Well, we're learning here, people. We're learning here. We did the other side, which is what I recorded, which is probably what you're gonna endure when you're doing it. And as many of you know who monkey around with your car, that always the first part or side that you take off takes forever because you're exploring, you're trying to figure it out. And that's what I want you guys to see. We could have easily shown you this side, which was 1, 2, 3, took us 20 minutes, but the other side, actually the time was about 45 minutes, almost an hour, because we're just trying to figure it out, trying to figure out how to compress the spring without damaging stuff. So again, I just want to show you the truth, not just the easy part, because that's not how it always happens. That's why these guys do what they do, because they have to figure it out. They have to go around things and work at it to get the overall result, which at the end is what you're paying the money for, which is the time and knowledge that it takes them to learn this. That's what you pay for. Remember that. All right, guys, now that we got the car up higher on the lift, I just want to recap what we did to take off and again, obviously put back on.
So 14 right here, this is the lower, what is this, the sway bar end link right here, so 14. 17's down here, you know, these 17s. And then on the opposite side, you do the same thing, and then you have a 17 bolt right there. This is like what's gonna hold the whole strut to the knuckle basically. And there's a 12 right here you have to remove for these lines. And then on the opposite side, there's a 10. You have to remove for this bracket that holds this, I guess, an ABS sensor or speed sensor. That goes here. And up top, you take those 14s off, and then...
Yeah, so like I was saying, it is gonna get frustrating, but the key is to have enough leverage and use pry bars to kind of help you out. And then getting this thing back in here also takes a little bit of maneuvering with the pry bar. And they also used a brass hammer, which I don't know where the heck it went, but yeah. So anyway, we're all done with the front suspension. Everything looks good, tightened up on both sides. Lewis is now gonna get to working on the rear suspension, which is pretty simple, pretty, what I say, routine. All right, y'all, this is the objective here, to loosen up. What size is this guy?
14.
14, and the one next to it?
17.
All right, we're gonna loosen up the 14, the 17 screws. We've already gone ahead and used a transmission jack, right?
Yeah, this is a transmission jack.
Floor jack, transmission jack, whatever jack you got to loosen. All right, we've been finding out all kinds of fun stuff with this side of the rear suspension. Initially, we thought we were going to have to remove a couple bolts, but as you can see, we've had to tear down quite a bit just to get into it. But you see here right now, the spring is so long and it was compressed that now that we're trying to remove it, it's not giving us the ample clearance, which we're figuring it out here as we go. Just a quick spot check. All right, now we had to remove the two aforementioned bolts here. We also had to, which go to these two guys. But then we had to take away the tension that was being caused by this. We had to loosen up the rear strut. We had to also release this tow arm. And we had to get to this guy here because this bad boy got stuck in here. Now, like I said, it's been very exploratory here, but we are getting to it. We are figuring it out. Next side should be a lot smoother for us, and see the difference in springs compared to the other one now.
I don't know if it was worth it for 1.2.
20 minutes later.
All right, so the rear, to be honest with you, isn't as intricate as the front, but it does take a little bit of, exploratory. On this side, we had to take off, as you saw a moment ago, a grip of things. Here, we didn't have to do so much, and the reason for the other side was because this bad boy got stuck right in here, which we had to release some tension and whatnot, so anywho. But here, we took initially the two bolts that were here, we loosened this guy up. We did release the bolt off of this tie bar thing, and that allows us to bring this bucket arm down and pull out the spring pretty easily. And now he's just gonna go ahead and reinstall everything. I'm gonna actually show you how he does it, putting it back in, so that way you could see what we've actually gone through. All right, y'all, we got everything nice and torqued down. Everything's buttoned up. I must say, this install,
It's like a first timer. This is like a 10. The second timer is gonna be like a 5.
yeah, this install was a little challenging, just maybe because it's his first RDX. It was a little exploratory. It did take a little bit more time than we thought it would. Jasmine, how much time are we in? We kept an honest clock on how long we.
2 hours and 40 minutes.
All right, there you have it, y'all. 2:40 to do this. We're all set here. Lewis is pretty much going to lower the car down. We're going to proceed with doing a visual inspection of all the bolts just to make sure that we got everything nice and tightened down and everything's torqued. And then we're going to move to putting on the wheels. And once we do that, we'll go ahead and remeasure and see exactly how much we've lowered the car. But remember that it is going to take a few beats for the springs to actually settle. But yeah, I mean, like you said, if you're a newbie, first timer doing this in your driveway, yeah, it's going to take you a second. If you have all the tools and all the nice things that Lewis has here at the shop, it's a 5. It might give you some complications. It might give you some gray hairs that you didn't have at the beginning, but you'll get through it.
I was a little stressed.
Just a little? You looked
Yeah,
a
it was
lot.
just that side. That side, it was like, usually always the passenger side is always the most complicated. But that's why I wanted to start on that side, because I knew this one was going to be easier, which ended up it was easier, but it just not because it was easier. Literally, this car, for some reason, the all-wheel drive system is like the same. Like, it's almost identical. So, just expect if we spent 3 hours, expect an additional 2 hours.
Yeah.
At least, minimum. Especially on the floor, yeah, no. Maybe 3 hours, 4 hours more. Because you have to raise it, lower it, all that stuff.
Or just hit you up on Instagram
Yeah,
and
you
book
can
an
just hit it
appointment. Leave the car here in the morning. You'll have it by the afternoon. How about that?
Yeah, I mean,
And make it
it's
easier.
definitely gonna take
Yeah, we can go get all your groceries and all your stuff. You don't have to be doing what this guy did right now.
Yeah, it was a handful. Okay, so
All right, y'all, we got Lewis here buttoning up the wheels on the car. Once we put them on, I can't wait to see the reveal and see exactly how much these EIBACH springs lower the car. Like we said, it's not gonna be a lot. It's gonna be 1.5 in the front and 1.8 in the rear, if I'm not mistaken. But it should be significant where we'll see a difference. I mean, when we did the Type R, it's similar. It doesn't lower it that much, but it was just enough to where it made the car that much better. And I feel that with these EIBACH springs, the RDX is gonna look a lot sleeker. It's gonna take care of this wheel gap that we got going on in here. All right, Lewis, moment of truth. Here we go. I'm gonna laugh, that shit looks higher. Oh, wow. It already does look lower. Dang. Yeah. On the real, folks. That boy got lower. Look at that. Yep. Wow. Hey, man, literally, the car looks significantly lower now. I mean, I didn't think it was gonna be that much of a difference, but I mean, I guess if you're looking in the same realm as when you put the spoon springs, it doesn't lower it that much compared to, let's say, like EIBACH or even
that's a big difference.
Swift. But yeah, this is a huge difference. Wow, I guess it is worth it, Lewis. And once they settle in, it should maybe drop a little bit more. Where's the measuring tape? All right, so remember, initially it was 32. Now there's 32. And we're about 30 and a half, which is spot on to what EIBACH says, 1.5 in the front. But we're thinking that once the car settles, we might hit that 30. We might want to remeasure in a few days and just to see where we're at. But my guess is it's going to drop probably to 30. All right, y'all, remember the back was 32.5.
Oh no, I think, oh no, it's 33 and a half, my bad.
Okay, so the back was 33 and a half, and we're sitting at 32 and
less than a half too. Well, we might get to 32.
We're gonna go ahead and start the car. From what Lewis is saying is the suspension dips a little bit when you put the car in park. So we're actually gonna see exactly how much the rear lowered, because the rear was showing 23 and some change. Oh yeah, look at that. You saw it right here. I was staying quiet because, like I said, as soon as you put the car in drive, the car will lower a little bit more. But yeah.
The rear brakes really holds everything together.
Right? You know what? This looks good.
That wheel gap came down a lot.
Yeah, especially in the front. Wheel gaps.
I think the rear has to just like really settle in by itself.
Yeah, the wheel gap kind of went down a lot in the front, as you can tell. The back's still kind of adjusting. And remember, like we said, I mean, I pretty much think we're going to be able to hit those numbers once we get the car on the road. It drives and it settles in a little bit more. But yeah, good looking out, EIBACH. I think this is a definite go on the install. But yeah, so far so good, folks. Again, I'm going to say it again. We got new things coming to the channel. We got a lot more content that we're going to be putting onto this channel. You won't want to miss it. So make sure you hit that button. You hit the subscribe buttons, the bells, everything else under the sun. And we'll see you guys here again, especially all the new people. Thanks for watching.
Plus aluminum arms though, compared to the SI. Fucking piece of shit. Steel ones. But this look, oh yeah, my bad. Beep.
Cut that out.